Hello, everybody. We got Lance Essihos on today, Mr. Adversity. That's what I like to call you. We have the Mr. Brand, but you've really developed that brand over the years. We met a bunch of years ago. We had a little intro on you. This is going to be an exciting episode because you've walked the walk and talked the talk. So let's go back, Lance. When did we meet? How did we meet? I can't even remember.
Well, thanks for having me on, man. It's good to see you got this podcast rocking now. So I think we met towards the end of 2018, which feels like a different lifetime ago now. A lot of your listeners probably feel that as well, because it's
everybody in the world, dude. Everybody. 2020, 2021 was insane.
Yeah, it's hard to think back now and realize it's the same lifetime at times. Things are so different now. So that's when we met, and we were introduced, I think, through some mutual people that we know, and and then
some mutual side hustlers. That's
mutual side hustlers. And then we just get together, hang out and chat, and kind of before the world got flipped upside down. And then we've just been keeping touch ever since and working together. And
we were working out of the same office, same floor in the building downtown Vancouver. We went to a football game, I remember, with the Australian, the crazy Australian. And I can't remember who played because we were chatting the whole game, like just chatting business back and forth.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's right. We did go to that game. That was like right before craziness happened.
Yeah, and then things shut down. That office shut down. The whole building, the whole world, more or less, shut down. It was crazy. I walked out of there on a Saturday night. It was April 2020. I remember because it was slightly before my birthday, towards the end of April. And there wasn't a soul on the street, right in front of that building. And this was a Saturday night. There's usually, 50 to 80,000 people go through that train terminal waterfront in Vancouver, and I didn't see anybody. And then I got attacked in the SkyTrain station. There was a couple homeless guys hiding out there. So it was crazy times. The buildings were boarded up. It looked like an apocalypse.
Yeah, I still sometimes can't even believe what that whole situation.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know watching your podcast, because I've gone back through a few, and I've watched them over the years, watch it progress into a top 1% podcast on Apple iTunes and
it's Apple.
Yeah. So we'll call it Apple, call it for what it is. But I've seen that progress. But let's take a step back. I know you were out of Canada for a while. You came back because of the passing of your father, and you had to take care of some affairs for that. But you played some junior hockey. So, let everybody know Lance a little bit before we get rolling.
Yeah. So I grew up in Edmonton, Alberta. So I was a hockey boy my whole life. I got to a very high level. That was basically who I was. That's what I did. I didn't know anything else other than that. And, I had a challenging teenage years, which made things really complicated as trying to make it as an athlete. A lot of family dynamics. It was really, looking back, it was really challenging times. And it made it difficult for me to really focus on sports because there was so much stuff that was going on in my family that I just kind of wanted to escape from a lot of it. And, I got into drinking and partying and just kind of numbing myself and, trying to figure out who I was after sports. Once hockey ended, I was lost. I didn't know who I was. And I just, like anybody, we all go through stuff. And I just tried a whole bunch of things, every job you can imagine, every different kind of thing I tried to figure out what my next thing was. And then I got into the bar and restaurant industry, which I ended up staying in for a long time. I got very good at it. I loved the idea of being with people and helping people in that experience and creating service. And I really enjoyed it. But that was also a time in my life where that I used I hid a lot through alcohol and through partying, but it also allowed me to be able to travel and do a lot of things like move to Australia. And, I worked in Vancouver during the 2010 Olympics and during the Canucks 2011 Stanley Cup run. So I got to work in like the glory days of the nightclub industry. And yeah, it was pretty wild, looking back. It feels like a different lifetime ago. But, through all that, there was a bunch of loss and family and a lot of like soul searching, a lot of digging, a lot of excavating and trying to figure out, my next path of life. And yeah, then we brought me back to around 2018 when we met, and then the podcast started and that whole thing kind of took off after that.
Yeah, so the podcast, I know that was emerging back when we kind of met. It was taking off and a lot of people were doing it. Patrick Bet-David launched his business. I think he sold it for 600 million, and he built that on the back end of his podcast, which kind of inspired me. We were doing webinars, so we weren't really doing it the right way, but we had guests on a webinar and recorded. So we have about 150, but you have almost 500 in the can and really polished and top guests on your podcast. What inspired you to start the podcast and the name, the brand, the University of Adversity?
Yeah. So when I start things, it's always because I have tried them first myself and I see the value, because I was listening to podcasts. And at that time, I'd been listening to podcasts since probably 2012. Joe Rogan had this it was different back then, but that's kind of when he started, was around that time. That's when I listened. So what I realized was there was a lot of information coming out that wasn't like a scripted narrative. It was like just two people talking. And I started to learn a lot about health, nutrition, about life, about business, about inspiration. And I was at a point in my life where I wanted to do that. And the reason I started the podcast was because I was doing a side hustle and I was doing that. But the problem was I didn't have a personal brand. I didn't have a way of connecting with people. And I saw that a lot of people were doing the same thing in a different way, but I felt I couldn't stand out. I couldn't write Facebook ads the way I really wanted to. And I was like, what if I start a podcast? What if I start a podcast? People can get to know me. I can build a brand and I can interview people and learn. And that's kind of how it started. And I just genuinely liked talking to people. But I started to see the power of what would happen when people would come on my show and get exposed to my audience, people hiring coaches and hiring people. And then I saw what it did for me and the opportunities that it made. It ticked a lot of boxes, right? It helped me create content, evergreen content. It helped me hone in on my message and speak more clear and understand, how to tell my story, the opportunity to build relationships. And I just realized that all of this stuff was happening. I was building solid relationships with people and opportunities were coming just from conversations, because it's very rare that you get to sit down with somebody in a setting that's not like a paid coaching call or something. And so I felt like I hacked the system, and I felt like, wow, I'm getting to talk to people like Grant Cardone and Dean Graziosi, and I'm extracting this stuff from them, and I'm learning and I'm building this relationship. And then, I'm also building trust with the audience. So I'm sharing things of vulnerable stories. I'm really being honest. So I was building this footprint online where people could go and learn about me it was almost like I was selling myself without selling myself. I didn't realize all that was happening. But I looked back at the podcast and the things that were happening. And I was like, this is really interesting. I just got into this because I was inspired. I liked talking to people. I loved connecting with people when I worked in the bar. And I realized I was good at just building these relationships. And I just started to see what happened. So it sort of evolved. One person would have a good somebody would connect with me, and then they'd send me somebody. And then it started to open up doors.
Well, that happened with me. You got me on as a guest. I think your first guest was Jesse Garnier. We worked together for almost 2 years on our webinars.
Yeah,
And
one
I
of
didn't
yeah,
even know he was on as one of your first guests. I think he said he was the first guest. I think he's
yeah, we were doing
bragging.
the same side hustle at the time, and he was crushing it, and I was like, I couldn't. That was the thing, is like I saw these guys crushing it, but I was like, I need something, an edge to build this brand so that people can like. I needed an edge, and Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about this a lot at the time,
And
and I
you
just
did. You hit the
yeah,
nail on the head, because anybody can sell t-shirts and anybody can put a print on a t-shirt. But I ran across a t-shirt website that's selling, 1 million t-shirts a year. T-shirt hell. I'll give them a little free plug, but they deserve it because they got a unique brand, and that's it. The brand sells. Just like I said, anybody can pick up t-shirts and try and sell them online or on a Shopify account, but it's not going to happen. The same with podcast. The
yeah.
same. And you also mentioned there towards your last bit that it was similar to the bar industry, where you could communicate with people, but it's a completely neutral setting on a podcast. Whereas in the bar scene, you probably get a lot of people coming in with a lot of pain and, trying to drown their sorrows, etc. And I'm sure you helped a lot of people, that were going overboard. That's part of being a bartender, but you saw a lot of people in a lot of pain. Did that was part of that past and your pain, going through the sports issues, the reason for the adversity brand? The
Oh
adversity
yeah,
brand is overcoming. And I see a lot of your guests come on because they want to get their message out, or heal themselves.
right, right. Yeah, that. Thank you for bringing that, because I remember there was a second part to that question. Yeah, why did I choose adversity? Why did I choose University of Adversity? This is something that's interesting, because I went sober for a year in 2017, and a lot of clarity came to me. And this word adversity really was like was present to me, and I wanted to explore it. And I had just lost my younger brother and my dad within a year, just over a year, gone through a lot of adversity. We all go through it, but our own adversity is the hardest adversity we've been through. So for me, a lot of things went wrong. It was very tough, but I love this word. And when I was thinking about a podcast, I had looked at Lewis Howes' School of Greatness, and I was like, okay, I like that. But at where I was at, I really saw value in stories. So we played with the name, and then all of a sudden University of Adversity came up. And I was like, that's it. And a lot of people like that name. And I used to, people would be like, shit, I wish I would have thought of that. It was just one of those things that it was, and I remember you used to say School of Hard Knocks, like that's kind of what it is. And that's what it is like I bring on people that are at a stage in their life where they can show the journey, right? Like at the time, a lot of people were just building themselves back from the last recession. So when I started, it was like we talk about the 2008 crash, right? That was like in the beginning what we talk about. People lost everything, and then into COVID and stuff. It took on this form, but what happened was like I always had the person's end result, and I wanted to know, how did you get there? And I think a lot of people resonate with that story in others, and they see themselves in that. And then when they see that, they feel something, and then they want to make a change because they know that they're not alone, because somebody else has been through something probably worse. And so I believe that we heal and we grow through the adversity. It's what reveals our character, because I really believe that you can only tell the character of a person when things, how do they deal with a difficult situation. It's easy when things are easy. I like to find out, yeah, but how do you deal with it when things are challenging? And that's what I love. I'm fascinated about the human spirit.
When
So
the
that's
when the
kind of how.
water, yeah, when the water starts filling the ship, or the shit hits the fan, what do you do then, and how do you overcome it?
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to, when I, even my own life going through things, I go back and be like, hold on a second. You've heard 450, almost 500 perspectives. You're okay. You're okay. And even that alone is like those perspectives of people going through things. It's like sometimes all you need to just hear that. And it's like, okay, I'm fine. Like everything's good.
You're not the
And
only one.
yeah, so that's why it's powerful. And I think like that's what podcasting is so powerful, is because I fully believe that when somebody gets on a podcast, or somebody is, if you can share who you are in a way that's unique to you, and you just show up at your, yourself, people resonate with that. There will be an audience for that. It's like there doesn't need to have to be like another version of this person, another version of that person. You just got to be the best version of you. And because people can start to smell bullshit these days, and I think it's really important now,
Well,
especially.
not just these days. Grandma and grandpa could smell it too, and we would tell them
Yeah,
stories as a kid. But in
exactly.
business,
Right. Yeah, that's why now too, like, you got all this AI, you got all this stuff. It's like people crave real, authentic human connection. Like, even you see, even on social media now, they're like starting to push longer. Like, I've been seeing on TikTok and Instagram, they want longer form videos now because people are tired of like the short bursts all the time.
well,
They
somebody who
want,
generates 400 ads in a day on AI and
yeah,
populates them into video into Chat GPT, and then now you got 400 automated ads. It's not like somebody coming on with authentic video. You give me a kick
yeah,
in the butt when we were talking about coming on here today. I said, why aren't you doing more of your videos? The one you said, those ones really resonate, where you do a short video of yourself talking about your
yeah.
topic, etc.
Yeah, because when you do those videos, I'm always like, oh yeah, Rob, that's good. Like that's a good, like this is the thing. And as I tell clients I work with too, it's like a lot of people underestimate the things they know. They think, oh, everybody knows that. It's not a big deal. And I've heard that over and over again. Even people coming on guests on my show or whatever they're selling, it's like they assume that what they have is not any different than anything else. But what they have is actually very valuable, and that not everybody knows it and not everybody's heard it. And there's like a fraction of the world that's actually heard it. So it's so important to tell that stuff in those videos on podcasts, because that's a lot of people haven't heard it. We assume sometimes that everybody's heard it because we've heard it or we know it really well. But the truth is that people haven't on the
We
big
just had,
scale.
yeah, we just had that example in our office 2 days ago. We had a meeting with the team because some of them are shy to get on a Zoom call with our clients. They're younger. I'm going to say younger, mid-20s. We got one guy that's a little older, closer to my age, but we had a meeting and I said, don't be afraid to get on a call with a client. 95% more than what they do. We're in the accounting and financial industry, but I said, you went through a minimum 2-year program. That's our minimum requirements, or CPA designation, right? 4-year post-secondary degree. And they go through a tax certification course before they come on board with us. And they get QuickBooks Advanced certified, from Intuit. And I said, you don't think you know more than the average person coming in for help? It's
Yeah.
insane, right? When you think about it that way. And they were like, hey, yeah, you're right. It gave them a little confidence. It
Yeah.
gave them a little confidence on the calls. And we have a hierarchy in here, just like you had a big team when you were building the podcast out. So how has it evolved now? I know you're helping me out now, get on a few podcasts. So how have you switched it around from running your own podcast to being a guest on a podcast? Where's the value there by getting on other people's podcasts,
Yeah.
being a
So
guest?
Yeah, so we started initially, my company, Mike Up, we started with podcast production. So we launched a bunch, couple handfuls. We never really, it's not something we were going out and scaling a lot because I was also writing a book. There's a lot of stuff happening. It was sort of like whoever came to, people were referred to me, we built it. And then, the COVID thing happened. And then what happened was a lot of people at that time, and I was still kind of new at the journey of understanding podcasts. It was a different world a couple of years ago, even. They didn't understand the value of the long term play of podcasts. And when shit hit the fan, the first thing to go was the podcast. And, we launched a bunch, and then people just, they couldn't see the ROIs of things.
They,
And I
they
was,
didn't get immediate results.
yeah. And the thing is with podcasting is if you have a show, it's the long game. You're building a digital footprint, you're building a brand. It doesn't come overnight. You got to see 3-5 years out. You have to. I said it to clients. I said, if you're not in it for at least 3 to 5 years, don't bother.
Well,
Because
we only got another 2 years, 360 days to go then, because we
yeah,
we we launched our first three with our co-hosts, and then now we're getting you on, as
yeah.
one of the big wigs in the industry. But yeah,
Well, I
it's
appreciate it. And the
we're
thing
we're
is,
looking at the long play because we got that experience from you, and I've seen you build it over the
Yeah. And people want to build, they want, it's a trust building thing, especially now with so many shows. It's like you got to earn their trust and you got to just show up. And there's a lot that happens there for your own confidence in that. We can talk about that another time. But what happened was I started to get about a year ago, well, actually about 2 years ago, even longer, people were asking me, like, hey, you get these big guests. Like, can you help me get guests or can I get booked on shows? And for the people that were working for me at the time, they really discouraged me to say, yeah, they're like, no, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. And I was like, why can't we do that? They're like, that's why it's important to have the right people around you. So not to say, I was new. There's a time when you learn a lot, right? And I realized that there was a demand and I eventually said, no, look, we do that. We're going to figure this out because the people are asking for it. Okay. Like sometimes you gotta like really, you gotta listen to what people are asking for. And so I tried it out a little bit with somebody else. I kind of made my way in. And within the last year, people have really come to me and said like, hey, like I need to get on shows. Like I got a book coming out. I got this and that. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pivot. I'm going to pivot and just offer this as our like core offer, getting people booked on shows. Because at the end of the day, it's about, if you have a mission, if you have a book, you have a program, you have a course, whatever it is, if you're listening to this show, chances are you want to make a difference in the world, right? So what happens? You can do all the things, you can do all the healing, build all the things, but if nobody knows who you are, you're not going to reach people. And the thing is now is that we see these influencers, the Grant Cardones, the big dogs. They're not necessarily the best at what they do. They're just seen the most. And the more you get seen, the more you become the expert in people's eyes. So podcasting now, the reason is that I saw that value and I saw that when people have something that matters to them and they want to get it out to the world, there's a few different things you should be doing to build your brand. But one of them should be planting your seed, your stories, your business into as many communities and networks as possible. It's not about the size of the show. It's not about that. It's about how can I build a relationship with the host? How can I make them feel like a rock star so that they want to promote me? How can I speak to the audience in a unique way that makes them feel like they're at the right place at the right time? And then how do I tell my story? How do I hone in on a specific story and then give them a clear call to action? Like this stuff really matters. And once you start to do that over and over and over and over again, things come back. People start to introduce you to
And
other
you
people.
also refine your message. You also get feedback and loop backs,
Yeah.
etc. I got a great analogy to pivoting, like what you're doing, and we're going to get more into what you're doing because I really believe everybody should be hearing what you're doing now. We'll keep them in suspense for a bit though. But when the car kit was first invented, and Henry Ford, I heard the story, it was Henry Ford. People were getting tired of sitting on wooden seats in cars. Imagine back before seatbelts and they had wooden seats. So he went out to this manufacturer, the US's largest manufacturer of saddles, leather saddles. And he said to the guy, he had a meeting wherever it was, probably, went halfway across the country to pitch this guy. He said, we need you to make, instead of making saddles for horses, we need you to make seats, leather seats for cars so it's comfortable for people. And the guy said, your car thing is never going to work. 3 years later, the guy was out of business.
Wow.
Right. So you see that opportunity in front of you, and that's what you're doing. You're really pivoting with this, and you do have a link. We'll get the link in the in the podcast page below. You can go to our website or reach out to us if you can't find it, because I really believe you should be connecting with Lance on this one. It's on your website, lancessihos.com, ESSIHOS.com.
Yeah.
We'll have the link there though, and go to the Mic Up link. And that is his service now that he's launching. And I'll let you, Lance, tell everybody about how you're, adding this service onto your business and then why everybody should be doing it. And then I'll give my 2 cents.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. If you have a message, you have a business that you want to get in front of people, this is the best opportunity to do that. It's not the only thing you should be doing, but if you want to make a greater impact, if you want to grow your brand, you want to build, you want to be able to create more content, you want to build more relationships, you want to sell more things, you want more speaking opportunities, you want more stuff to come, well, this is the best way to do it. And the reason I do this is because the thing that I'm offering, I'm selling, I actually did. I hired somebody before I started my podcast because I wanted to understand the podcast world, and I got booked on a bunch of shows. So I don't sell anything that I haven't used. And I've built for the last 6 years my entire brand from having my own show, which I also recommend doing. We help with that too. But having what's more important than having your own show, because that takes a lot of work, is if you can't have your own show, get on as many shows as you can. And for me, that's what I've done. If you see, I got a book opportunity from that, a best-selling book. I've had summits. I've had some of the biggest people because I took advantage of this like golden opportunity, the golden age of podcasting. And that's it. If you want to build your brand, you want to build more trust with your audience, you want to sell more things, get more opportunities. In my opinion, it's a no-brainer.
It reminds me, I think it was Naughty by Nature, the old song Down with OPP, other people's podcasts. And that, that clicked there when we were talking, but you can build your own and spend the money and the resources, and there's a little bit of cost. You can do it on a nickel and a dime, but it may not be as polished. But why not get on somebody else's podcast that has tens of thousands, if not hundreds or millions of followers, and you can get your message out there immediately, get your brand going, and then possibly launch your own podcast. We've been in business 20 years, and finally we're just starting. Lance, you're one of the first guests. We've only recorded 3 with our co-hosts, and then they'll be co-hosting. But we've done over 200 webinars, and we had guests on our webinars, so it was the same process. And we're looking at going back and turning those into podcasts. And that's from just taking the first step. Brian Tracy says, for the old school listeners here, instead of the Jeremy Miners and Grant Cardones, but Brian Tracy said a lot of people end up on Someday I'll. If you don't know where that is, it's someday I'll get around to it. Someday I'll start that business, that idea I had, or that podcast, or reaching out to Lance to get OPP, getting on other people's podcasts. We're getting up on time here, Lance. So your book, Mastering Adversity, how can people get a copy of your book, and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I wrote that book during the thick of all of it, all the pandemic stuff. I was traveling, and I went through a lot of when you have a book, Mastering Adversity, you know that you're going to be what you're signing up for. So I went through a lot while writing that book. And yeah, it's really, I wanted to figure out how can I distill all the knowledge that I have from the podcast, also have like everything that I've learned in my life, the tools, into a book. So I wanted to have a roadmap to adversity. There's a formula there, start to finish, on how to create more self-awareness and how to move through it when it happens. And there's links to different podcast episodes. We go into different things like trauma and really getting granular with a lot of this stuff. And yeah, it's just my story. And from that point, I got another book in me, definitely. Once I finished that one, I'm like, oh, it's time to write another one. But
that reminded me of a great scene, and I had to Google it here. It was Howie Mandel, the great Canadian comedian. There was a guest on Britain's Got Talent, it was America's Got Talent, Drew Lynch. And here's a comedian that stutters. He can barely get the words out, but he wove it into the comedy and brought Howie Mandel to tears. And Howie Mandel gave him the golden buzzer because he said, a lot of comedians, and I believe he said the words, I didn't have time to check, so don't quote me on it, but I believe he said a lot of comedians overcome adversity by telling through comedy. And there's different ways to do it, and your book really sums that up. So besides your book, Lance, for our listeners, we always ask for a couple books. So if you have a couple that you could recommend that really inspired you, or you got some golden nuggets from, and then we'll make sure your book, Mastering Adversity, a way to get a copy is in the link here and around the
Oh,
video somewhere?
there's been so many.
Let's go with one, and then I got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, the one that just comes to me, the first one that I ever picked up about this kind of stuff was Think and Grow Rich. I mean, a lot of you guys know that. Your audience is obviously very smart and they're kind of in tune with things. So,
They're
um,
hustlers, and some of them
yeah,
got a side
exactly.
hustle for their side
You guys
hustle.
know what's up. So you guys have probably read, good books already. But yeah, like books like that. I mean, there was a book called Happy Pocket Full of Money that was kind of an interesting book about kind of taking Think and Grow Rich's concepts, but kind of going into it more and understanding like what is actually happening with these certain things with the subconscious mind and like quantum physics. Really interesting stuff. So that's the thing of like, if you have questions about a lot of the stuff that happens with like subconscious mind and money programming, it's cool to get books that break it down even more into like understanding at the quantum level. So I kind of nerd out that way. So those two books were really, really powerful for me.
So go back, probably half our listeners and your listeners have read or parts of Think and Grow Rich, but to dig into the book a little bit, maybe one or two nuggets that you got out of it, or something in there that inspired you, or just the concepts, something
Yeah.
in general. Because trust me, the same books come up from a lot of guests, and that book will probably come up 20 more times this year.
Well, just understanding that what we feed our subconscious is kind of what we attract in our life. So if we want results, we want to attract different things, we got to feed the right information because it's like 5% of our brain is conscious and the rest is from the subconscious. So I just found it so fascinating. I've read many books on this and I've even, done the work on myself to reprogram, but to be able to have a number or have like a vision and to go over that in the morning and the evening, which I could probably get better at. I think we could all get better at. But the framework of it about doing that, reading over a statement, receiving amount of money in a certain period of time, or being in that state and being in that future self now, and you read that over and over again, you're creating that and that's becoming who you are and watching like what you allow. I think nowadays the world and social media and Netflix, it hijacks our attention and we don't even realize what's going into our brains, and what we consume consumes us. Well, it's not just about what we eat, it's about what we take in, what we listen to. And if you do inventory about what you're watching and who you're listening to, that's who you become. So if you really want to get to a certain point, I think like they talk about in the book, like you really got to be mindful of what you allow in and what you put into your brain when you get up and go to bed at night. So that's probably the main concept, combined with other books I've read, but that's a big one.
So yeah, I heard one that today's problems won't fix tomorrow's solutions. So, a lot of people that are dwelling on things, just take the first step, reach out
Yeah.
to Lance, ask Lance. He's got an offer for everybody, a 20-minute discovery call that he can get you on. If you believe you have some value that you can bring to an audience and you're looking to get on some big podcasts, the easy way to do it is just reach out. Feel free to reach out if you want to get on our show, go through Lance. Lance is our exclusive booking agent. We'll just make that official today. So don't call me. You got to go through Lance and go on his discovery call if you want to get on our podcast. So we're inviting side hustlers, people that are making it in the social media marketing industry. That's the type of guest we want to bring on. But if you want to get on the big shows, Lance is the guy to reach out to. So Lance, finishing up here, we'll have all of your links there. The main link, though, how to get booked on other people's podcasts, is Lance Essihos, ESSIHOS.com, and then go to the mic up link. That will bring you to the page, book the discovery call. So just let everybody know what happens in the discovery call. What kind of value are they going to get out of that 20-minute meeting with you?
Yeah. So normally when people book a call with me, it's a consultation call. And, but I want to offer your audience today kind of like a bit of a clarity kind of coaching call just to see where you're at. I don't do this very often, but I want to offer it to your audience because I think your audience is smart. I love what you're doing, Rob. And, what the call is going to be is just really, you can ask me questions about stuff, podcasting. I can find out a little bit more about what you're up to. And if you feel that this could be something that you want to explore, we could explore that. Or if I know somebody that could help you, I will, send you their way. just, I'm opening up this offer to have one-on-one with me that I don't normally do to you guys because, I value whoever listens to this podcast and what you want to create. So if you want to make a bigger difference this year, if you want to get seen finally, you want to get known for the greatness that you want to create, well, now's the time. And whether you're just at the place now where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, or you've been doing it for a while, there's podcasts for you. And this is a good opportunity at the very least. If you want to get on stages one day, if you want other things, practice telling your story and you're guiding people to where you want to guide them. At the very least, this is a great opportunity. Take advantage of it in the golden age of podcasting is right now. And I would love to offer this to you guys if this feels like a good opportunity. So that's what we'll do.
Yeah, we'll put that direct booking link, and they can get to the rest of your site. But let's focus on this booking link. And that's, I think the best value I've heard in a long time from, somebody offering a service. We do things a little different, but there's 180,000 registered tax filers in Canada. So what makes us different? We do some unique things. But I believe what you've done is pivot the value you've built in getting people on your podcast and seeing the value that they can give audiences. And they don't have to spend the big bucks to set up their own podcast. They don't get that $3,000 mic like you have, or the $99 mic like I have. It's money to start up a podcast. What an easier way to do it is just piggyback, OPP. We're going to play that on the outro here. A little naughty by nature.
Yeah, I think it's important to just start. No matter what, it's important, for growth, we got to know how to take the steps for that to happen. And you guys are listening, where you're at, that if it's something there that you've been holding back on, or if, it's something that you want to do more of, there's always value in just taking those actions, and, opportunities come. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and I love being part of it because, a lot of my work is in the transformational stuff, like you guys know, my podcast, my book. But like, one of my big passions why I like doing this is because once you've done the personal development, the healing work, you built the thing, you wrote the book, now it's like time to throw gas on the fire. And I want to help the people that are like, let's go, let's get known, let's get seen. And I think right now is the perfect time to do it.
Yes, and this offer that you're doing, you only have so many spots. I believe there's a dozen spots, and that's
Yeah.
over before the end of February.
Yeah,
So
because normally people on my team will do calls mostly. And for this one, I'm going to be doing them. So there's a limited spot. So we'll do 12. So I would
yeah,
take advantage of
yeah. If you
that.
want to
And
talk to Lance directly, it's like people call us, and somebody yesterday said, "Well, we were on a call with somebody and said, well, do you actually work on the tax work?" I said, "I haven't done a tax return in 15 years." Like Simon Sinek says, I'm responsible for the people that are responsible for the people that are doing the tax work. We're not that big yet, but yeah, I still do actually work on tax work. But a lot of people want to talk to they got a complaint on Twitter. They want to talk to Elon Musk or X. They want to, complain about Facebook. They want to talk to Zuckerberg, but you can only go so far up the channel. They're going to get to talk to you directly, Lance.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks a million for being on. Any last messages? We'll make sure and get all the links below. We'll make sure you get in contact with Lance. These spots are going to go fast. We're going to get this and aired probably within a week, so early February, to ruin the evergreen experience. It's early 2024, but Lance is launching this, and we want to get you in on the opportunity.
Yeah, I would just say in the booking, just say it's from listening to the podcast with Rob, Side Hustle, Side Hustle. And that way I know, because people randomly book in there, and we have to kind of move through the different bookings. So I would say that make this your year to get seen. If you say you want to make an impact, if you have a business that you want to get into more people's lives for whatever reason, you're listening to the show, it's your duty to get it out there. It's your duty to get your message out there. And 2024 is the year to do it. So make this year the year that you stop procrastinating, stop telling yourself old stories of the past, and just start refining your message, and just watch what will happen. Things will happen for you, and doors will open up for you.
Thanks so much, Lance, for being on the Side Hustle Podcast with Lance Essihos. All the links are below. Reach out to us if you want to get booked on Down with OPP with other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the other side.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate it, man. You should tell them to go listen to our episode from a few years ago.
We'll make sure and get that in the link. A little flashback.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you.